Today we're looking at James chapter 4 verses 1 through 10, and we'll just quickly read that for you. What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You desire but do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You don't have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive, because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. You adulterous people, don't you know that friendship with the world means enmity against God? Anyone who chooses to be a friend of the world becomes an enemy of God. Or do you think Scripture says without reason that He jealously longs for the Spirit He has caused to dwell in us? But He gives us more grace. That is why Scripture says, God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble and oppressed. Submit yourselves then to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Grieve, mourn, and wail. Change your laughter to mourning, and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up. James is pointing out a very important thing. He's been dealing with the poor, and in dealing with the poor, he really wants to convey to these believers in the churches that he's writing to, these Jewish Christians, that there can't be this split between the rich and the poor. They can't have a double-mindedness in all that they're doing. He wants them to be a people of unity, of one focus, and that focus is always to be on God. Well, this week we're looking at how Jesus walked, and part of this comes from Hal Perkins' book, Walk With Me. You can find it online, and he is writes a great book on discipleship. And so we're going to look at this passage of Scripture through the eyes of how we as believers can pattern the life of Jesus in what James has told us. The first thing I want to focus on is that Jesus was close to the Father, especially in conversation. In verses 1 through 3, James kind of encapsulates this. He spoke to God, Jesus did, very frequently. At daybreak, we're told in Luke 4:42, Jesus went out to places of solitary locations where he could pray. In Luke 5:15, we're told that he would go to lonely places to pray. Jesus went out as usual to the Mount of Olives and prayed. Luke tells us in chapter 22, verses 39 and 41. James tells us that the reason for the church's arguments is that some are very dissatisfied with their situation, with their lives. They aren't happy that they're not getting the things that they wanted. They keep asking God for things that they want, but then they don't get them. Things that would make their life easier. Maybe it was things that would benefit their own desires. Maybe they were looking at the big picture of their own life and were trying to figure out how they could plan for their future and have all the things that they thought would make them happy. Well, we sort of do the same things. They were asking with impure motives. They weren't really seeking to know God. They weren't really caring what God wanted for them to have or what God was actually doing, but they were focusing on their own life. What are the motives that he really speaks of? Well, we have a simple word for that: selfishness. Selfish motives. That's what they were out for. Jesus taught his disciples to pray in Matthew, and he tells them when they go into prayer, they're to say, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Well, James tells us that many of our troubles are the results of our failure or faulty prayer. Prayer that is selfish goes unanswered before God, according to James 1, verse 7. And so today, I would encourage you as you pray, begin to ask God, what is it, God, that you want? What is it that you're looking for? And you know, when it's all said and done, we will find that we are happy in the presence of God and with what He's doing.